Welcome to Charli Jane Speakers Radio. This is the show where we share speaking tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your public speaking business. Our goal at Charli Jane is to get you, the speaker, on the platform in front of thousands of people so that you can teach and motivate your audience, enriching and empowering them to lead fulfilling lives. And now, here's your host, Wendi McNeil.
Hi there, it's Wendi McNeil here with Charli Jane Speakers, and thank you for tuning in to today's podcast. Today I'm going to talk about 3 steps to establishing on-stage credibility as a speaker. But first, I want to invite you over to our amazing Facebook group, as I do on every podcast at the beginning, because it is truly an amazing group of speakers. And I would like to invite you over there. We have speakers in there that have been there for, I would say 30 plus years, 5 years. And we have speakers in there that are just kind of, dabbling around and thinking about it, and they want to start a speaking business. You can find us at Grow Your Speaking Business on Facebook. And I will also make sure that I share the link in the show notes so you can find us over there. So, moving on with the podcast today, 3 steps to establishing on-stage credibility as a speaker. Whether you like it or not, as a public speaker, your message is inseparable from the person delivering it, which is you. First impressions count. And if audiences don't trust you from the outset, then they won't even take on board what you're saying, no matter how valuable or insightful it may be. In other words, you could have prepared the best speech in the world. I mean the best darn speech in the world. But if you don't come across as a credible source, it's not really going to matter. So, how can you make sure that audiences see you as a credible onstage persona? Here are some of my tips for establishing credibility from the moment you take your first step on stage. All right? So, number one is to set the tone with your self-presentation. There are several ways to build rapport and respect from an audience, and they almost all derive from how you set the tone with your self-presentation. But what does that mean in practical terms? Firstly, you need to look the part, okay? I've already talked about the vital importance of dressing for speaking success in another podcast, and it is also on my blog. It's incredible how just a simple change of attire can completely alter an audience's perception of you. So make sure that you dress appropriately for the occasion. Now, that doesn't always mean as smart as possible. I want you to match the audience, okay? Match the audience. If you're in a corporate atmosphere, you want to dress appropriately. If you are speaking to some high school kids, I want you to bring it down a few notches, okay? Match your audience. Next, make sure that you're speaking loudly. I want you to speak loudly, clearly, and with confidence. I have been to many conferences, and I know that speaker had an amazing talk. And I was in the middle. I've been in the middle of the room. I've been in the back room, and I couldn't hear it. Like, I could hear a little bit, and then they would speak up a little bit, and then it became very quiet. And so I really, not only me, but the rest of the audience was not able to hear the whole talk. So I want you to speak loudly, I want you to speak clearly, and I want you to speak confidently through your whole speech. Make eye contact with the audience members, even if you are reading from, say a prepared script, or say you have to use cue cards for some reason in your presentation. Making eye contact maintains that engagement and trust with the audience. Another helpful tip is to move across the stage. Okay, I want you to move across the stage rather than becoming very rigid, and static in one spot. Even if you have a PowerPoint presentation, to aid your speech, moving closer to the audience and engaging with them periodically can dramatically improve your trustworthiness and your credibility. All right? That was number 1. Moving on to number 2. Establish authority. I want you to establish authority. While how you present yourself and carry yourself is vital to your on-stage credibility, so is your ability to establish your authority. After all, why should your audience listen to what you have to say or someone else in your niche? What makes you qualified to deliver the insights you're about to give them? As much as you might have wanted your audience members to have researched you beforehand, the burden of proof is on you and you alone. So early in your speech, you need to go over your experience a little bit, any extensive training or qualifications, or, maybe perhaps an original research that you carried out in your field. Demonstrate that you know what you're talking about by bringing in outside sources that can speak to your expertise. Lastly, I want you to put your authority in the context of your wider industry. How does your perspective on your specific niche fit in with what other movers and shakers in your industry are saying? All right, that is number 2. Moving on to number 3. I want you to find common ground. Find common ground. Skeptical audiences will need to be won over before they start trusting what you have to say. The best way to break down those imaginary barriers that they've kind of erected is to find common ground. Appeal to values, appeal to beliefs that you all share, and identify problems they might be experiencing or questions that they might need answering. Audience members skeptical of what you have to say are usually that way because they hold on to a specific opinion, or a belief. So one of the best ways to win them over is to acknowledge that viewpoint, recognize its legitimacy and its merits, and confidently explain why you have arrived at a different conclusion. All right? So referring back to your evidence, experience, and so forth, or position on that chosen subject. If you dismiss opposing views, you're going to lose skeptical audience members right there and then. And they're going to totally switch off for the rest of your speech, okay? So, number 3 is to find common ground. Without onstage credibility, you can lose your audience. While consistency and clarity can sell you as a speaker to planners, once you're on stage, you need to establish credibility quickly and effectively to have any chance of success in your business. From delivering your speech with confidence and looking the part to finding common ground and winning over the skeptics, there's a range of methods you can use to make an immediate positive impression on your audience. By implementing the above strategies that I have talked about into your speech delivery, you can ensure you deliver a winning speech time and time again. All right? Now, these are just a few tips out of many that our speakers share in our Facebook group. I had mentioned it earlier in the podcast at the beginning, Grow Your Speaking Business. It's an incredible. I can't say enough things about it, but it's an incredible online community filled with speakers from various niches, experience levels, all helping each other on their journey to building a successful speaking business. So again, you can find us on Facebook, Grow Your Speaking Business. I will leave the link in the show notes. And also, I like to give away a freebie on my podcast. And the one for this week is I have a couple speaker one-sheet templates. Now, if you are a do-it-yourselfer, you can go and grab these and create a professional one sheet. Now, I've designed these myself. I've been doing that for 15, 16 some years. And I put together a couple templates for you to use. You can download them, and they were designed in Canva. So if you have Canva, they do have a free version, so you can download that if you don't have it. But I will leave the link to the templates in the show notes as well, so you can grab those. So that is it for today's podcast, and thank you for listening in. Take care.